ABC24 News starts right now with breaking news.
Well, thank you for joining us right now. The family of Tyre Nichols is expected to address the public during a press conference after viewing the video of Nichols' confrontation with police.
That's right. The NPD Chief C.J. Davis did fire 5 of those officers involved in this case over the weekend. Now, we are waiting to hear from the family in a news conference, but right now there is a statement from NPD police. We'll read that statement that reads, in part, transparency remains a priority in this incident. A premature release could adversely impact the criminal investigation and the judicial process. We have new information and insight from attorneys on how this process moves forward.
And as this case continues to unfold, Brittany Moncrief is live downtown. Brittany, while we wait for new information, how are things out there right now? What's the morale like?
Well, Pepper, as you know, this is a very, very touchy, incident that happened, and it affects all people in our community. And so right now, we are expecting to hear from the family as well as Ben Crump. We're here outside of Mount Olive Cathedral CME Church. Now, we don't know if this video is going to be body cam video, if it's going to be footage from police cars or sky cop video, or even witness video for that matter. But we're waiting to learn more as the family will be appearing here at the church. Now, let's break down a little bit of what happened and what transpired over the last few weeks. On January 7th, NPD attempted a traffic stop on Rains and Ross Road. They say Tyre Nichols was driving recklessly. There was a confrontation and Nichols ran. At some point, police caught him and arrested him. Reports say Nichols expressed having trouble breathing, and paramedics took him to St. Francis in critical condition. Now, Nichols passed away in the hospital on January 10th. Protests started 4 days later. That's January 14th, and 2 days after protests began, the family announced Ben Crump as their attorney. Now, that next day, January 17th, the family laid Nichols to rest. On January 18th, the Department of Justice and the FBI announced a federal civil rights investigation into the case. Now, for days, the family has been calling on justice. They want justice, and they say their life will never be the same with Tyre gone. And this is something that a lot of the community members are saying, too. They want to see justice for Tyre. We've seen countless protests throughout our community, and inside, even in the church, there are people from all over our area who are here hoping and wanting justice. We saw community leaders, we saw elected officials, even just community members who happened to be around and knew that the family was going to be here today and Ben Crump was going to be here today. And so they're all filling in the sanctuary right now behind me.
Brittany, we understood this press conference to start at 1 o'clock. It's been pushed back. It's now 1:31 at this point in time. Do we know why that press conference was delayed?
Well, right now, we don't know why that press conference was delayed, but in this time, we've been seeing a lot of people come. I've been able to speak with some of the people that have been inside. One person who is a skateboarder, a fellow skateboarder, he was down at the skateboard protest downtown near City Hall, and he expressed that it was important for him to be here because he identified with Tyre. He's around his same age, and he said it could have been him. We also spoke with the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and he's a much older man, but he mentioned how he identified with Tyre because he, too, had his own encounter with police years ago when he was younger. So you see a lot of people identifying with Tyre and here to support Tyre and his family. And also, I'll say one thing that really stood out is curiosity. People just want answers. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. And so people are hoping to find out more information as to what happened on January 7th. Rudy and Pepper.
All right, thanks a lot, Brittany Moncrief. A lot of questions. We've seen those skateboarders around, and people don't quite know the connection there.
Yeah.
But that was a great explanation.
Definitely, she'll stay on top of it, I'm sure. All right, well, as we're waiting to learn what video was used in this case, and right now we still don't know if it's body cam, car cam, or witness video. But what we do know is the Memphis Police Department has rules for recording. So let's explore a few. First, when officers check in for the day, they must check their cameras to make sure video and audio is working properly. And if it's not, they are expected to report it to their superior. The cameras should always be in standby mode, ready to go. And once recording starts, it should not end until police conclude their investigation of the scene. And if it does, you report it to a superior.
Well, officers can only review their body camera if they're completing a report. But if somebody is harmed or dies during their response, officers cannot view body camera footage until the investigation is complete into the officer's actions.
Now, the same rules go for police car cameras. The only time they're not recording is when an officer goes inside a building to examine a scene. But once they return to the vehicle, they must start the car again.
Well, today, the city's seeing 5 incidents that resulted in deaths since the beginning of December, including Tyre's death. Now, the first happened on December 5th. Somebody fired shots at officers on Winchester Avenue, and officers fired back, according to police. Police then reported the shooter dead on the scene. 3 days later, on the 8th of December, police say they encountered 3 carjacking suspects. And one thing led to another, and one man started shooting at officers. Police say they shot back, killing 1 person and arresting the other 2. Then on December 17th, police tried to stop a car on American Way and Goodlick Road. Now, the driver there sped off, police say, lost control of the car and stopped in a park. 4 men got out running with guns. An officer chased 1 man, and when the man fired shots, police say the officer shot back. Now, that suspect eventually died from his wounds. The others were not found. On December 30th, police say that they encountered a man in a stolen vehicle on Edward Cove. Reports say the driver of the black Challenger fit the description of the person from a shots fired call. Police say the officer and man got into a tussle, and the officer shot the man. The TBI is investigating that case. Well, there's so much uncertainty in this case.
Absolutely.
Right now, we look to an attorney for some guidance here.
That's right. Right now, criminal defense attorney Murray Wells joins us to answer a few questions that you all sent in to us. Attorney Wells, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's jump right in since we have you here. One of the big questions we're getting is what kind of charges and legal ramifications could the officers face in this case?
Of course, without seeing the video, we can't say exactly, but the charges could range from murder 1 all the way down to negligent homicide. There's a wide range of crimes in that spectrum when you take another person's life. So I would expect it to probably be either a second degree or voluntary manslaughter.
Now, I know many people don't always understand how the legal process works as it relates to officers. So we got a question that reads, if MPD had enough to fire the officers, why haven't they charged them yet? Can you walk us through the legal process of an investigation like this?
Sure. Completely different standards. So obviously beyond reasonable doubt is the standard they'll have to find the officers guilty criminally. The employment situation is a very different standard, and the process to go through is the same. Very different. So what I would look for is the termination is step 1, and that's an acknowledgement by the city that these officers behaved badly and outside of the policies and practices of the city. The second part would be the presentation to the grand jury, and that'll start the criminal process.
Another question that we're getting here into our newsroom. Many people see some cases, they think they're open and shut situations, but when we get to court, sometimes things change, of course, because of evidence and people who testify. So a viewer asked this question: can you, or any other attorney for that matter, accurately predict what the outcome of a case will be? And if so or not, why or why not?
Well, the answer is always no, because there's so many variables at play. Witnesses don't show up, evidence disappears. You have one person on a jury who may see things very differently from some bias they may have in their life or past experience. So you can never predict what a jury will or won't do. And that's really the great thing about the justice system is that we all have the opportunity to win or lose cases.
So much in this case that we're still learning.
Absolutely.
And yet to learn, so we'll be looking for that.
Yes, thank you, Attorney Wells, for that insight. We appreciate your time. Well, right now, Memphians are working towards solutions, and one is a legal fund. So I know that we're going to be talking more about that, of just how that looks like. And then we are going to keep talking with Brittany Moncrief, who is still outside of that going on. So and then we also have the quote from the Memphis Police Department that transparency remains a priority in this incident, and that a premature release could adversely impact that situation. So we will definitely impact the criminal investigation and judicial process. And as I said before, Brittany Moncrief is out there. She also tied between the skateboarders that were also relating to Tyre Nichols and how they wanted to make sure that they were in on this press conference that will happen in just shortly. I believe she is waiting out there, and once we understand more about when that will start, we will have a lot more on that situation and just when that body cam footage, again, whether it's car camera footage, whether it's a witness footage. I know we all are still looking for so many answers around this case and just what they will release and when.
That's right. Once again, we're waiting for a press conference to begin. We know that the family of Tyre Nichols was to look at that video today. At some point in time, that video will be released or may not be released to the public. So there are lots of questions that you'll hear as we talk to people that have been outside of the church where Brittany Moncrief is reporting from, as we wait for the family to address the public with their comments and their concerns and what they may be advised to do by their attorneys and what will happen in this case. You know, one of the big things here and a big factor in this case is the body camera.
Absolutely.
Or surveillance camera, whatever type of video it is. So that's causing lots of people to ask questions.
Yeah.
Were the body cameras properly used? As we told you about just not long ago, there are policies put into place.
Absolutely.
Questions if those policies were followed and how they take place. Their perspective places in this particular case.
Yes, and I know a lot of people are also mentioning just similar cases where we've seen that body cam footage come out a lot sooner, and this may seem like a situation where they've waited or there's been a lot of time, and you know, that's also something we're learning about and asking questions about why it's taken so long and their internal investigation and what that process looks like. I know Stephen Reels, our reporter, has more from Attorney Wells later on that will play in our 5 p.m. just exploring more of this timeline and when things are supposed to be released and what keeps that from happening. So again, a lot of questions that we all want answered. This is definitely highlighting a lot of how these investigations work.
Let's review again. You told us about some of the policies and how MPD uses video, body camera video particularly.
Absolutely.
Let's look at those again. First, the officers check in for the day. They must check their cameras to make sure that the video and audio is working on them properly. If it is not, they are expected to report it to their superior. Then the cameras should always be in standby mode and ready to go, of course, in case of an incident. Once recording starts, it should not end until police conclude their investigation of that scene. If it does, you report it to your superior. Now, officers can only review their body camera if they're completing a report. But if somebody is harmed or they die during the response, officers cannot view body camera footage until the investigation is complete into that officer's actions.
Now, the same rules go for police car cameras, and the only time they're not recording is when an officer goes inside a building to examine a scene. But once they return to the vehicle, they must start the car again.
So this is, as we talk about the policy surrounding body cameras, we also have to keep in mind, once again, like we just stated, we're not sure what type of video this is.
Right.
That information has not been released as of yet. So that could change so many things in this case.
Yes, yeah. Yes, definitely. Body cam footage, car camera footage, again, witness footage, it's just all being taken into consideration, if there's even any of those out there, definitely.
That's right, that's right. Okay, we are still awaiting the beginning of that media conference with the family of Tyre Wells, as we understood. They were to see the video, whatever type of video that is, today. After that happens, a decision will be made on whether that video will be released to the public for us all to see.
And we're definitely looking into more of those questions to get answered. And we have attorney Murray Wells on standby right now joining us live. Thank you so much for being here with us. Now, I know one of our questions that we wanted to ask you was just the timeline. We've seen similar cases like this where, you know, body cam footage was released, or really particularly the charges of the officers is what I wanted to get into, actually. So a lot of times we've seen officers be put on administrative leave. And this one, a lot of people are wondering, the decision to fire these officers may have came a little quickly, or what it appears to be quickly. Can you speak a little bit to that timeline when those decisions are made?
This case seems to be a pretty bold statement by the city of Memphis that they don't condone whatever has happened that day with those officers. Generally, officers are given a lot of deferment and a lot of opportunities to protect their rights, employment-wise, criminally-wise. The early termination in this case tells me that the city of Memphis is distancing itself from its own officers as quickly as possible. And there could be a couple of reasons they might want to do that.
Attorney Wells, I know that you're not necessarily associated with this case, but there's a lot of conversation about what that video is and what that video looks like. We just ran down some of the policy as far as body cameras are concerned, but not knowing the type of video the family is seeing now, what sort of impact would that have on the case as well?
Well, the video is the best evidence. It's not subject to cross-examination. It's not subject to interpretation very much, and it's not something that it's a he said, she said. So the video evidence is never going to change over time. Witness testimony does. Firsthand accounts do. Forensics changes. Video stays in place. And so that's a reason you can release it early, because it's never going to change anything. It just is what it is. It's a true story of what happened.
First experience, 5 cops all fired at once. I mean, this is a lot. I don't know if I've ever reported on so many. Have you seen something like this in your experience as being a criminal defense attorney?
Not 5 police officers. We've seen 2 or 3 pretty regularly, but this many officers that appear to be involved in this to the degree that they're fireable, I've never seen before, and I'm really concerned about what this video is going to show us.
And again, I know you recapped this for us earlier, but the potential charges, you really want to hit on that again. What could these cops potentially be facing?
Sure. Obviously, the ultimate would be the first-degree murder charge, and that requires premeditation and deliberation. And those would be hard things to prove in a case with the facts we have right now. There's a second-degree murder charge, which is a lesser intentional killing of a person, meaning you intended to kill that person, and you did so, but you lacked the premeditation or the planning to do that. Another charge would be voluntary manslaughter, which means that you took that person's life and you intended to do it, but you were out of your own mind. The common example would be when a husband might catch his spouse with someone else and kind of go crazy. That doesn't seem like something that would apply here, but while officers in the line of duty, 5 of them, that would seem to be appropriate. And then there are reckless and negligent homicides where the person acts recklessly or negligently, and that results in the life of someone else being taken. Those don't really seem appropriate here either, because there appears, from what we've heard, to have been some intent to harm this person.
So a lot will depend upon what happened in the moments before this confrontation got out of control, and that also means it depends upon where this video starts, where it begins, or where it ends, it sounds like.
Sounds like, but in order for these officers to get so impassioned and inflamed, and 5 of them, would be difficult for me to believe that they weren't better trained than to be able to control their emotional reactions versus their physical reactions as a response to a threat. All
right, Attorney Wells, thank you so much for that insight. I'm sure we will be checking in with you again later on today, but thank you so much for joining us. Well, right now, Memphians are working towards solutions. One is a legal fund. A lot of people are speaking out after the firing of the 5 officers, and that includes the Memphis Police Association. Now, they are saying that they will not comment on these terminations, but did add that the citizens of Memphis, and more importantly, the family of Mr. Nichols, deserve to know the complete account of the events leading up to his death and what may have contributed to it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so back to the skateboarders that you've been seeing. The skateboard community isn't the only community mourning right now. When somebody dies, several communities mourn, whether it's family, friends, peers, co-workers, whomever it might be. Either way, it's another person taken from the lives of loved ones.
Absolutely. And as Brittany Moncrief was out there earlier in our breaking news coverage, she had mentioned that she spoke to some of those skateboarders and how they wanted to be there for that press conference because they relate so much to Tyre Nichols, and they felt like it almost was, she mentioned that they felt like they saw themselves in this situation. And I know so many people feel that way across the nation, and this has really made international news. So it's really resonated with so many, and the skateboard community just being one and making that tie will definitely look more into into that, I'm sure, later.
Lots of people waiting the results of that meeting with his family today, as you said, around the world.
Yes, and these protests have started even on Martin Luther King Jr. Day last Monday, whenever they stormed up to the mayor's breakfast, and we saw that was just sparking all throughout the week. We've seen many people come out and just really voice, and this is in Memphis, but of course, again, across the nation, this has just been making national news, and we've just seen so much here at home. It's really just been resonating with everybody. I know, I mean, I'm sure you've been here, Rudy, for so long, and just this, I mean, to you, you've covered Memphis news for 10 plus years. I mean, how is this resonating with your coverage and your?
Well, as we said before, there are several other incidents similar to this that have happened in a short span of time. Let's recap some of those. On January 7th, MPD attempted a traffic stop on Rains and Ross Road. They say Tyre Nichols was driving recklessly there, and there was a confrontation, and Nichols ran at some point, and police caught and arrested him, and reports say Nichols expressed having trouble breathing later. Well, paramedics took him to St. Francis in critical condition. You're looking at a picture of him there at the hospital. Nichols passed away in the hospital on January 10th. The protest started 4 days later on the 14th. 2 days after protests began, the family announced Ben Crump as their attorney. Then the very next day, January 17th, the family laid Nichols to rest. On January 18th, the Department of Justice and the FBI announced federal civil rights investigations into this case. So a lot has happened with this case in a very short period of time. Absolutely, it has. And then for days, the family has called for justice in this case. They say things will never go back to how they used to be when Tyre was around. And as we all can imagine, I'm sure that's just a deep hole that will be hard to fill. Oh, I imagine not. Yeah, absolutely. And we're still waiting for the family to share what they learned about the case. And I know we're standing right outside. And one of those things, of course, we're touching on is the body cam footage, whether it's body cam, whether that's car camera or witness video. What we do know is the Memphis Police Department has rules for recording. So let's explore a few again. First, when officers check in for the day, they must check their cameras to make sure video and audio is working properly. Now, if it's not, they are expected to report it to their superior. Now, the camera should always be in standby mode, ready to go if something should happen. And once the recording starts, it should not end until police conclude their investigation of that scene. If it does, it's reported to a superior. Officers can only review their own body camera if they're completing a report. But if somebody is harmed or they die during that response, officers cannot view the body camera footage until that investigation is all done into the officer's actions. And the same rules go for police car cameras. The only time they're not recording is when an officer goes inside a building to examine a scene. But once they return to the vehicle, they must start the car again. So we're going to touch back with Attorney Murray Wells, who is a criminal defense attorney with so much expertise in this. So we do want to ask just about that body cam footage. What are some of the telltale signs that they will learn in this case from that body cam footage? I know a lot of that is contingent on each officer. Not all will face the same charges, I'm sure that video might show.
Well, we're going to get a narrative. We're going to hear officers, not only the officer that has the body cam, but the other officers around him using their words. We're also going to hear from the victim himself, probably. It's likely that he will be caught on the camera. And the inability to breathe is something that troubles me. And I think that would probably be caught on audio. And I would just say that it's a good thing that these cameras are in place. And 10 years ago, we didn't have the same ability to verify, and things move much slower. So it's going to be interesting to see. The cameras are just indisputable and irrefutable. And we have seen in various incidents, not just here in Memphis, but across the country, where those policies that we sort of outlined there weren't always followed, and videos were absent because cameras were turned off in many situations. And I'm sure that's something that will be taken into consideration when looking in this case in the courtroom as well. Absolutely, and we've had cases where the body camera somehow is not turned on, or it's been misplaced, so it's not always a surefire science that the policy's followed. And then it's not a surefire science that they keep the data stored properly. Sometimes things pop up over a amount of time, and hear that it's been recycled. But I'm glad that this one moved quickly. They've got as much as they have preserved.
Absolutely. And then what is the process? I know we've talked a lot about body cam footage, but witness video also plays a part in this investigation. So what's the process in getting that victim or sorry, witness video, and whether they can release that on their own recognizance?
People are entitled to take videos. If it becomes evidence, they may be under some order not to release it publicly on their own on Facebook or something else. Of course, if it went out live or something like that, they couldn't stop it. But that is another element of potential delay. So the body cam is pretty straightforward in terms of whether we can release or not. An individual's video becomes a different thing because there may be independent witnesses or someone else who doesn't want to be identified, somebody they want to protect that saw that happen because they might face some sort of negative repercussions or some other way make statements that could impact the investigation.
All right, thank you for that insight, Attorney Wells. We will certainly be checking in with you later.
Right now, we want to read again for you the statement, or this statement rather, from the DA's office. It says, earlier today we met with the family of Tyre Nichols, who have now seen that video. This is fresh into our newsroom right now. They say transparency is a priority for the DA's office, and we understand the public's desire for immediate release. However, it's important that the release does not compromise the investigation. We're working with the TBI and FBI to expedite that investigation and are consulting regularly with the city of Memphis about the video's release, which we expect will occur this week or next. All right, so from that statement, right into our newsroom, breaking news right now.
Absolutely.
We do know that the family has now seen the video and they are in consultation with several law enforcement agencies right now. We were wondering if we would see that video today after the meeting because we were told last week that the video would be released if it was going to be released after that. Well, it is, but now that time has been extended to some point this week or next week. So they are looking for the FBI to expedite this case and move this case along.
Absolutely, and I know that that's been huge. I mean, just the fact that the family's already seen it now, that's a major development because I know we've all been waiting for it to be released to the public, but the family has been demanding to see this video for weeks now, and now that they have absolutely confirmed that the family has now seen it, it might be a short amount of time now for when that will be released to the public. Well, now we're going to take you to a full screen of this quote from the Memphis Police Association. The citizens of Memphis, and more importantly, the family of Mr. Nichols, deserve to know the complete account of the events leading up to his death and what may have contributed to it. And that, again, is something that we've all been waiting for. So we're happy to know that they have at least seen that video. And I can't even imagine the emotions that they must have went through to even view that. And we're going to go back to Attorney Rudy Williams, who's been with us this entire time to give us some expertise a little bit on this investigation. So Attorney Williams, just this new development with the family now seeing it, where do you think that what step is this in the process now? What happens from here?
The delay is a little concerning that the family's seen it, and I don't know how you could keep the family from now sort of sharing their version of the tragedy. And so I don't know what the point of the delay would be now if you're going to show it to the victims. They're not. So now the family will be able to tell their version of that story. Maybe the video will serve some purpose and delay helping the investigation, but it might also help in sort of letting things sort of heal for a minute before it comes out.
With this new development as well, the statement from the DA's office informing us now that it could be several more days before the video is released to the public. Does the length of time and the longer we go, especially with the family, as you mentioned, now seeing this video, do you think that will have some sort of impact? I mean, up till now, we've heard lots of speculation surrounding this video that many people have not seen because it's a huge question. Does another week, does another 2 weeks sort of have, might it play some role in how this case goes forward?
It may play a role in public perception. It's not going to play a role in the facts. The facts are going to be the facts. The camera is the camera. But the family, I think, should have the opportunity to sort of dictate at this point, since they've shown the video. The family ought to be able to explain to the community, whether they're satisfied, whether they're outraged, whether they're hurt. And I think that story deserves the video to come directly behind it. But I don't play a part in people who make investigative decisions. It does strike me a little curious that the investigative decision to terminate already happened. So they had enough evidence to take these men's jobs away. So I don't know what additional evidence they need to charge or not charge. But again, I'm not an investigator.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your insight and your expertise on this. You have been such a helpful source for us today. Thank you so much, Attorney Wells.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to wrap this up for now. We're not sure when that media conference is going to happen or if it will happen. I can imagine after the family has seen this video today, there are so many emotions surrounding that. But this is a live look at the church where that media conference is to take place. When it does, we will keep you updated. We will be back on air and online so that you know exactly what is happening with this Tyre Nichols case and the reaction from the family after seeing that video. For now, we're going to send you back to our regularly scheduled programming, and we'll be back with more details as they come in.
ABC24 News starts right now with breaking news.
Thank you for joining us right now. The family and attorney of Tyre Nichols are going to tell us about the video we viewed. 5 officers are now fired, so let's take a listen to what the family has to say.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Mount Olive Cathedral Church here in Memphis, Tennessee. We welcome all of you to this press conference. We're going to ask that we would bow in prayer, and then we will begin. May we pray. Loving God, meet us afresh this hour. Bless the family of Brother Nichols. Shower them with your blessings. Remind them of your ever-abiding presence, and make them to know you as a God of justice and peace. Bless Attorney Crump and his team as they work and labor for justice. Bless the city of Memphis. May you give peace and calm to all of us. Give strength and grace to all, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. 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 We bring on now a wonderful gentleman who has been fighting across this country for justice, for the least among us. We bring on Attorney Ben Crump. He's our justice fighter. Would you give him a hand as he comes?
Thank you so much, Pastor Thomas and Bishop Thomas, Bishop Williams, for allowing us to be in your cathedral at this moment here in Memphis, Tennessee, Shelby County, to address this injustice. I would like to let you all know that I'm accompanied by my great co-counsel, Attorney Tony Romanucci, who was my co-counsel in the matter of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Also, Attorney Ernestine Doyce, a great lawyer, one of the judges elected here in Shelby County, is also our we are blessed to have a great co-counsel and Attorney Van Turner, who, as you all know, is also our civil rights leader here in Memphis, Tennessee, our NAACP president. And we also have Kareem Ali, who is been by the family side as they continued on this journey. It has been with the activists, the people who did not let us forget Tyre Nichols. Can we give the activists and the community leaders a great round of applause? As Miss Rovine Wells, Tyre's mother, said, without you all, we wouldn't be here. And so we never forget that you all in the community are the first defenders, y'all the first responders for justice for our people. So thank you so much to you all. And we also have present here with us Tyre Nichols' mother, Miss Rovine Wells, Tyre's father, Mr. Rodney Wells, Tyre's grandmother, Miss Lucille Washington, Tyre's aunt, Miss Adriana Wells. Unfortunately, his sister and brothers had to go back to California, but they have been here for almost 2 weeks away from their jobs and family because they can't believe their brother is gone. And that is his sister Kiwana, his brother Jamal, and his brother Michael. They know what a good little brother he was. They know what a good father their brother was, and they certainly know what a great son Tyre was. But you're going to hear that from the people who knew Tyre best, the people who are most appropriate to give him a voice. And that is going to be his mother and father, who are going to tell you, after Attorney Ramanucci and Attorney Turner and I talked to you a little bit about what we were shown today. They're going to talk to you about not Tyre. Not Tyre. I mean, he was a good young man. A good young man. Everybody from FedEx, his co-workers, all his skateboarding community, all the people who were in photography class with him. I mean, this was a good kid. His mother said the things that stood out to her about what was his focus in life, skateboarding, and we'll share with you video of how good of a skateboarder he was. Photography and computers, and most importantly, being a father. He loved his son. Everything he was trying to do was to better himself as a father for his 4-year-old son. And you're going to hear them talk about that. And so what we're going to talk about now is the video that we've just watched and how his mother couldn't get through the first minute of it because, as Tyre said, what did I do? That was his question. What did I do? You ask, we can't get into so many details because the investigation is going, and to the activists, I want you all to know in the community that we will see what they did to Tyre. We'll see what they did to Tyre. From DA Roy's office asked if we could be patient for 1 to 2 weeks as they finish the video, also the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations and the FBI all said they promise 1 to 2 weeks. This video, all the video they that they can give this family what they want most, and that is justice. But what we can tell you about the video is it is appalling. It is deplorable. It is heinous. Attorney Ramanucci, what was your word? Violent? Violent. Violent. And it's very troublesome on every level. Because you have to ask yourself, yet again, we're seeing evidence of what happens to black and brown people from simple traffic stops. Simple traffic stops. You should not be killed because of a simple traffic stop. And we have to say to America, however you would treat our white brothers and sisters when you have a traffic stop with them, well, treat us black and brown citizens the same way. The same way. And I mean, Miss Wells let them have it. I mean, she was passionate that you can't keep killing our young black people over traffic stops. And so we have to make sure that there's justice for Tyre, because we want to prevent this from ever happening again to anybody else in Memphis, Tennessee, in Shelby County, in the United States of America. We don't want next week to see another video of a black person losing their life because of a traffic violation. How many more? How many more? You know, we met with Mayor Strickland, and he offered his condolences and prayers to the family, and a promise at transparency. And probably more importantly, we met with Chief Davis, the police chief, a black woman, a black mother, who was very emotional when she talked with Miss Wells, right, Kareem? Yes. She said, I'm not offering my response as a chief, I'm offering them as a mother who got black children. And so she had tears in her eyes, just like Miss Wells had tears in her eyes, and she said that she was not proud of what we were about to see on that video. She said she was proud of many things that law enforcement did in the community for trying to protect the community, serve the community. But in that video, she said she was not proud of what we were about to see. And what we saw, you know, regrettably, it reminded us of Rodney King video. Regrettably. And unlike Rodney King, Tyre didn't survive. And so we are here to demand justice for Tyre. And I know the officers were African-American officers, and I've already been getting the question about what is my response to that. And it is very simple. What I have come to learn from doing this civil rights work against excessive force policing is that it is not the race of the police officer that is the determinable factor of the amount of excessive force that would be exerted. It is the race of the citizen. And so we have to have accountability no matter who tramples on the constitutional rights of our citizens. And it is so regrettable that they didn't think of Tyre as their brother, because you want to believe that if you thought of him as your brother, that you wouldn't have did this to Tyre. And so it's very heartfelt that we have to have this conversation to say that, no, it's about the citizens, the black and brown citizens who get dealt excessive force by police officers, whether they're black, white, or brown. And it has to stop. It has to stop. It has to stop. It has to stop. And so I feel her trembling next to me, and what we have promised Miss Rovine Wells, who saw her baby boy, who lived with her, who went to work with his daddy every day at FedEx, who came home for lunch at 7 o'clock for their lunch break, because they worked second shift from 2 to 10:30. And she would have their meals prepared. And she is just so heartbroken every day, but especially at 7 o'clock when she's expecting her husband and her son to come through that door on their lunch break. But only her husband comes, and she is still waiting for her son to come through that door. It is devastating on every level. So as I bring Attorney Romanucci to address you, please continue to keep this family in your prayers, especially this broken-hearted mother who she just cannot understand why my baby. Now you're here for my great co-counsel, a great lawyer, Attorney Tony Romanucci.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Ben said, my name is Antonio Romanucci. I work with Ben Crump. There's nobody better in this country to talk about the cause, the state of what happens to young brown black men when they have confrontations with police. Let me say this about Tyre, about what we saw in that video. We're here not to talk about what a great boy he was and what a good son he was to his mother. But let me tell you what he was in that video. He was defenseless the entire time. He was a human piñata for those police officers. It was an unadulterated, unabashed, nonstop beating of this young boy for 3 minutes.
Oh my God.
That is what we saw in that video. Ben told you what we saw. Not only was it violent, it was savage.
Oh my God.
Why? Where was the proportionality that is required in order for those officers to use that type of force against a defenseless young man? And where did he want to go? He wanted to go home. He was trying to run home because he knew that's where he could be safe.
Yep.
With his mother. He wanted to be safe, but he couldn't be from the police officers who somehow, this is what we know, I think anticipated the violence when they initially made the traffic stop. And that's because we know these officers, at least some of them, were from the organized crime unit. They were in unmarked cars. Why are they conducting traffic stops? You get it. You get it. This is pretextual. This is a pretextual traffic stop, which, let's call it what it is. It's a racist traffic stop is what it is. The proportionality was gone. These police officers felt, in their mind, they knew they could get away with this sort of violence. Why? Because there's a sense of impunity, there's a sense of culture within the police department, not only here but across the country, that they will hide for themselves, they will cover up for themselves. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry I did this. I covered up my paper on the Holy Bible, but we are here today to say to you, so help me God, when is this going to stop?
Amen.
We must stop this, and we must stop it through the actions of Ben. We must stop it through the courage of the parents. We must stop it through the courage that we take to the courts. There are many, many ways to do this. We must stop this. I'm going to repeat it because it was so important. We had a meeting today with the district attorney and the federal government, and we left that meeting, I think, very confidently saying that we're encouraged that they are going to do the right thing. And we trust that. And let's trust that. So let's please exercise patience until that video comes out. Please. And then you may be able to look and you can be your own judge of what we are saying today, whether it bears any truth. And there is no doubt that your voices should be heard. You should be heard. It would be shameful if you're not heard. Because, oh my gosh, that's part of the Constitution, right? First Amendment right, Fourth Amendment rights. Amen. We are to be free from unlawful use of force. We are to be free from excessive use of force. Where was this young man's constitutional right that day? Well, we're not going to stop our rights from being heard about what happened to Tyre. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to close. I know I'm going to... No, take it. Okay, well, I could talk a lot more about what we're going to do. But we are conducting our own civil investigation. We are going to move forward very soon as we can, with litigation. This is a Section 1983 case, and we are going to do whatever we can to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Mm-hmm. What happened to Tyre should be the end. Not only are we looking for justice, but we're looking for changes. Mm-hmm. We have to demand policy changes. Must. So I thank you, Ben, family, Thank you for putting the trust in us. We will serve you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Romanucci, for your advocacy. We all got to be advocates. We all have to be advocates. We don't know. I can't even fathom what's going through their head. I hear from officers adrenaline is pumping and stuff, but at some point it becomes about humanity. Just humanity for your fellow human being. And so I just think about when he said, I'm just trying to go home. At what point does the humanity come in and say, this doesn't seem to be a bad person? I mean, I just want to go home. And then, I don't know if this makes Miss Robon feel any better, but the last words on the video, he's only about 80 to 100 yards from his house, and he calls for his mom 3 times, Mom. He's called for his mom, and so where's the humanity? Where's the humanity? We're going to hear from a great civil rights leader right here in your midst before we bring the family up. He fights for the humanity of all of us here in Shelby County, and he's fighting with us for Tyre's humanity. Attorney Van Turner, President of the NAACP.
Thank you.
It's with a heavy heart that we are back here again. The last time you were here, Attorney Crump, another innocent young man had lost his life, and he was cut down, Alvin Motley. And if y'all recall that case, we were here together lamenting about what had occurred to him and promising that we wouldn't allow anything like that to occur again, yet here we are. And so the question becomes, why does this keep happening over and over and over again? And what can we do as a community to stop this from occurring? I want to acknowledge again the heads of this house, Bishop Marvin Thomas. Y'all give him a hand. He's a national board member of the NAACP. I want to acknowledge Pastor Kenneth Thomas. He's actually the presiding leader of this church. Y'all give him a hand. I want to also acknowledge my NAACP peers, because we are here with you. Oftentimes they ask, what has NAACP done lately? I think we've done a lot lately, and if you are with the NAACP chapter, please stand. Wave your hands. NAACP, please stand and let us know you're here. We appreciate you all for being here. My executive director is right here, Vicki Terry. Thank you so much. And I want to acknowledge the elected leaders here. I'm no longer an elected official, but I think it means something because we're angry. And we're angry at the government. And the question that you have for the elected leaders is, why can't we stop it? What are you doing to stop it? I've been there. I've been on both sides of that. So we want to acknowledge and thank the elected leaders who are here, and we appreciate them for standing here. So we have City Council Chair Martavis Jones. Thank you for being here. We have City Councilman J.B. Smiley. Thank you for being here, sir. We have our state leader, Karen Camper. Thank you for being here, Representative Camper. We have Senator London Lamar. Wave, London. Thank you for being here with us. We have Representative G.A. Hardaway. Thank you for being here with us, G.A. We thank our elected leaders for being here and standing with the community, Reverend Earl Fisher. It's not us against them. These people, these elected officials are from these same communities, and they have to go back home and live in these same communities, and they want an answer too. I thank Tony Armstrong for being here. Y'all give him a hand. You all know who he is. He's the former police director. He knows better than all of us what should have occurred that night, and he feels the pain of this family, I'm quite sure. In the Bible, it says, "But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." We're here to protect justice. We're here to support this family. We're here to show this family that Tyre Nichols' death would not be in vain. We're here to make sure that we're not here a year later, because we were here last year for this very same thing. We want to make sure that we're not here a year later asking the question, why now? Why this young man who was simply trying to make it home, who called out for his mother 3 times, but nothing could be done to spare his life that evening. There are policies in place. We need to promote those policies. Aid can't wait. How many of y'all remember that? We fought like hell, excuse me, Pastor. We fought like hell for Aid can't wait. After George Floyd, we fought like it. We fought for what? Those are the 8 policies that law enforcement was supposed to utilize when they were interacting with the community. Banning chokeholds, de-escalation, rendering aid when you need to do so. And do we see that any of that occurred? So we have to put forth Aid can't wait and make sure it is a policy that is followed. We have to make sure that when we say no chokeholds, when we say render aid, when we say de-escalation, it has to be followed. It has to be followed. So on behalf of the NAACP, Mr. Pearson, on behalf of the NAACP, we just want to let this family know that we're here, we're with you. We've been around since 1909, and we ain't going nowhere now. We're going to continue to fight for this family. We're going to continue to stand for this family. We're going to continue to stand with Black Lives Matter, Mr. Gotti and the crew. We're going to continue to stand with all those who are fighting for righteousness and fighting to make sure that justice continues to roll down. I want to also thank finally Josh Spickler here with Just City. Y'all give him a hand. He gave us important commentary. And I want to thank Cardell Orrin, who's also with a number of advocacy groups fighting. Y'all give Cardell a hand for fighting for us as well. I like to do this, and Ben Crumpet's going to do this too, but let's just say his name. We want to know, and we want to let this family know that we love Tyre, we support Tyre, and we're going to call his name because we can't forget. Y'all say it with me. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. May he rest in power. Let's keep fighting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, President Turner. Now you will hear from Tyre's parents. First, you will hear from his father, Rudy Williams, and they're going to try to get through it best they can. You will see what they did to Tyre. They saw it today. And when people want to try to act out, just know, in a very short order, we will see what they did to Tyre. If anybody start saying things, instigating things, tell them. Now, Attorney Crump said, we will see what they did to Tyre. Right. Yeah, we will see what they did to Tyre. 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 And so his father, Mr. Rudy Williams, is going to talk to you a little bit about what he saw. And so y'all pray for him and give him a big round of applause as he tries to hold his queen up and hold her strong.
everybody. My name is Rudy Williams. I was Tyre's stepfather, but you could take the step out of it because that was my son. Before I start, I would like to say that on behalf of my family, that if there are any protests, we would like them to be peaceful. We don't need no burning of the city or no looting, because that's not what Tyre wanted, and that's not going to bring him back. Amen. What I saw on the video today was horrific. No father, mother should have to witness what I saw today. But Tyre was a good kid. We worked together. He was very, very beloved at my job. Everybody are calling me with blessings, prayers, showing sympathy for what happened. It's really hard to get up here and speak to you guys today, especially after viewing what I viewed. I got to stay strong for my family, for my wife especially. That was her youngest baby. He meant the world to her. You know, and what made it even harder was he came along a little bit later than the other three. His sister, she was 12 when he was born, so that was her baby. That wasn't mama's baby, that was her baby. Wherever she went, he went. And of all the siblings, I think she took it the hardest. So Tyre was just a good kid, man. He loved more than anything besides what they just mentioned is watching the sunset.
That's what he was.
Every day at lunch, if he didn't come home for lunch, he was at Shelby Farms watching the sunset. Taking pictures. That was his passion. And I had just told him recently, I said, son, you got to put that skateboard down. You're getting too old.
No.
You have a full-time job now. You're going to have to come to work every day. And he looked at me like, you're right. Because that was his passion. That's what he liked to do. But I really don't have anything else to say. All I know is my son was a great, great kid. He didn't deserve what he got. Now what he deserves is justice.
Justice.
And the family and the attorneys that we have will not stop until we get justice.
That's right. Amen.
And as I said from day one, justice for us is murder one. So anything short of that, we will not accept. So that's our goal, and I thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wells. Justice for Tyre.
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 And even when the cameras are gone and everybody's gone, we want y'all to continue to say it so Miss Rovan won't think she's by herself.
We got her back.
We got to stand with her. Yeah. Because if we don't all stand, next time it might be you. That's right. And so we all got to stand together so it's nobody else who gets killed like Tyre. Say no more. 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 Justice for Tyre. Justice for Tyre. Yeah, please give a big round of applause for a mother who is bearing her heart and her soul.
Hello, my name is Rudy Williams, and I'm Tyre's mother. My son, I know everybody say mothers say they had a good son, everybody's son is good, but my son, he actually was a good boy. My son, he liked to skateboard. You know, I'm gonna tell you what my son did every day. He would get up every morning at 8:30. He'd go to Starbucks at Saddle Creek. If it's during the week, he'd be home by 11. He'd take him a little nap before he goes to work. Like you heard, he worked at FedEx and they worked the second shift. He would go to work. Mm-hmm. They would come home at 7 every day. Mm-hmm. I would have dinner cooked because that was their lunch. And they would go back. On a Saturday, my son would wake up, go to Starbucks. He'd go to Shelby Farms because he liked to skateboard. That was his passion. He's been skating since he was 6 years old.
And very good.
And very good.
Yes, ma'am.
He would come home. He would hang out at the house. That day, when he left around 3 o'clock, he noticed that I was pulling some chicken out. He said, "Mama, you cooking chicken tonight?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How are you cooking it?" And I said I was going to put sesame seed. He loved that. He was on his way to Shelby Farms because my son every night wanted to go and look at the sunset. That was his passion, going to Shelby Farms to watch the sunset and take pictures. On Sunday, he would get up, he would clean his room, and he would wash his clothes for the week ahead. Does that sound like somebody that the police is trying to say did all these bad things? No.
No.
My son, nobody's perfect, okay? Nobody. Mm-hmm. But he was damn near, okay? He was damn near perfect. And my son, he came here right before the pandemic. He got stuck here because, you know, we shut the world down. But he was okay with it because you know why? He was with his mother. My son loved me to death. And I know that was a bad word, but that's how he felt.
Yes, ma'am.
He had my name tattooed on his arm, and that made me proud because most kids don't put their mom's name. But he did. My son was a beautiful soul, and he touched everyone. He only worked at FedEx for maybe 9 months, but you should see all the outpour and love and support. And it's just so hard to even fathom all of this because it's not even real to me right now. I don't have any feelings right now. I don't even know I don't know anything right now. All I know is my son, Tyre, is not here with me anymore. He will never walk through that door again. He will never come in and say, "Hello, parents," because that's what he would do. He would come in and say, "Hello, parents." I'll never hear that again. All my son was trying to do was get home. That's all he tried to do was come home. He was 2 minutes from the house when they stopped him. He was less than 80 yards away when they murdered him. Yes, I said murdered. That's right. Because when I walked into that hospital room, my son was already dead. The hospitals, they kept him alive, or they put him on the breathing machine just for my satisfaction, I guess.
For their satisfaction.
But my son died on January 7th. The doctors pulled the plug on January 10th. You know, last Monday was Martin Luther King Day. That's right. But it was also my mother's birthday. And for her to have to come here and come to a memorial for her grandson, I couldn't bear watching my mother go through that. Today, January 23rd, is his sister's birthday. And now she has to bear all of this. I don't know what else to say. I know I'm a hurt mother. No mother, I don't care what color, black, white, pink, purple, should go through this. That's right. I have always raised my children to love everyone until they give you a reason not to. Half my grandkids is other races. We don't discriminate against no race, none. And for this, you know, I hate the fact that us as black people, we're out here killing each other. That's right. For what? I don't know why. Come on, Mom. We have the police killing us. That's right. I don't know why. I just don't understand why we have to have all this violence and everybody have to kill each other. I mean, what happened to this world? Everybody want to kill each other. Nobody don't want to talk to each other anymore. What happened to the humanity and kindness? That's right. Amen. What happened to it all?
Amen.
I don't know. But I just want to say, I want everybody to thank you guys for coming. And we're going to get justice for my son, Tyre, if that's the last breath I take. That's right.
Amen.
Because at the end of the day, my son and no son deserves this at all.
Justice for Tyre.
Justice for Tyre.
And y'all, if you could have felt her shaking, and me and Mr. Wells literally holding her from falling back, she bared her heart because Tyre was her heart. And so, before we take questions, I think what she was saying is, why can't we de-escalate when it's black citizens? I mean, when you watch that video, you're going to ask yourself that, where was the de-escalation? Where was the de-escalation? Tyre said, what did I do?
What did I do?
He wasn't escalating it. You got to ask,
what did I do?
When it's white citizens, we de-escalate, but we don't seem to de-escalate when it's black citizens and brown citizens. We got to have equal justice, equal policing. If we don't, we're going to continue to see this happen over and over again. So thank you so much, Ms. Wells and Mr. Wells, for bearing your heart. Yeah. And I'll make sure Ms. Wells says she not just saying her son was a good skateboarder, she gonna show y'all. Press at bencrump.com. She wants everybody to see him skateboarding, doing what he did, love to do.
Love to do.
Love to do. And also, Tony Romanucci, you say you're a photographer. Tyre gonna show you about photography. We're gonna share some of his pictures of sunsets with you. Because it mattered, and he mattered.
My son didn't do no drugs.
Yeah.
He didn't carry no guns. He didn't like confrontation. None of that.
So,
that's why this is so hard, because he was.
And I'd like to share one other thing.
Okay, again, we'll
I just want to clear up a myth in case anybody says something about it. Our son ran because he was scared for his life. He did not run because he was trying to get rid of no drugs, no guns, no any of that. He ran because he was scared for his life. And when you see the video, you will see why he was scared for his life. Okay? So I just wanted to share that in case anybody tried to throw that out there. Why did he run? Because we've heard that on social media. He ran because he was scared for his life. He was trying to get home to his mother and father. It's the only reason.
That was it.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Thank you for clearing that up. Tyre had Crohn's disease, and you know, as a result of Crohn's disease, you have significant weight loss. Tyre weighed, what, 140 pounds?
45.
And how tall was he?
6'3".
6'3", 45 pounds. How much, you know. We'll take your questions. Any questions? And yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I know we haven't seen the video yet, but is there an explanation as to why 5 officers from one person who weighed less than 150 pounds?
You know, Attorney Romanucci and Kareem Ali and us, that's what we kept asking ourselves. Mr. Wells kept saying, why? You know, why do they have to do all of this? You all are going to have to watch that video and judge for yourself. Why did they feel they had to do all of this for a young man who weighed, as his dad said, $150 soaking wet?
Yeah.
And all of them were clearly bigger than him. They outweighed him. Why did they feel they had to use this kind of force? We just don't know. Yes.
Are you?
Which one? Let the lady first, and then you, sir. Go ahead.
The video that was used, was that body cam video, or?
It was video, and so that's all we know is video. Yes, ma'am. And there's some audio to the video as well.
Are you aware that today EMT officers with the fire department were suspended for their lack of doing what they were supposed to do at the scene and kept covering up?
No, we were not aware of that.
A whole shift was suspended this morning out of Fire Station 55.
Amen.
Well, thank you for sharing it. I know Ms. Wells and Mr. Wells want there to be accountability for everything that happened on that video. And thank God they had video. Thank God they had video. Thank you so much for that. And my response and our legal team response is simply, right is right and wrong is wrong. And when you watch that video, you will see people if they did right or people if they did wrong. And we have to have equal justice. It doesn't matter if you're a police officer or you're a citizen. If you don't do right, you have to be held accountable, especially when somebody loses their life tragically.
Did you see one? Was it just one body camera video? Did you see 5 body camera videos? And was it
All we know, there were videos. We saw multiple videos. That's what we are allowed to say. Okay. Yes, ma'am, beside you, and then we'll come here, then we'll get over. It showed multiple officers participating in doing things that we felt were clearly excessive, and apparently so did the police department here in Memphis. Yes, ma'am.
I think the million-dollar question is, how did you feel when you seen the video and recognized that they were not white officers?
You know, as I said on previous occasions, it doesn't matter if the hand who pulled the trigger, who killed your son, was a black hand or a white hand. The pain is still the same. It didn't matter. Yeah. The pain is still the same. And that's why we're here. You know, Reverend Al talked to the family, and he talked about people have this misnomer that we are anti-white cops. No, we're anti-bad cops. It doesn't matter what race they are. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Two quick questions. You've talked in the past about the importance of video. Can you speak specifically to this case, comparing the original police narrative to what you saw on the video today?
So I don't know what the original police narrative was.
The original police narrative was that my son was pulled over for a DUI. We were told that all of this occurred right there at Ross and Raines. We did not know that it occurred 3 houses from our house. So the more investigation and the more videos or stuff that was showing up, we found out that it was not at Ross and Raines. So to me, it was a cover-up from the start. You know, they were trying to cover their tail from the start. We thought that it occurred in a field right across from Ross and Raines. There's an open field right there. And that was the first thing that we saw in the news. But it didn't. So, and then, like I said, they was talking about my son ran, which he did. But he ran for his life. He didn't run for any other reason.
How important is that? Mr. Ruff, you talked in the past about the importance of
Yeah.
video. How important is video in this particular case?
Now, video in every case, but in particular in this case, was critical. Was critical because you had to see the step-by-step, the blow-by-blow. Tyre didn't run initially. I mean, but when you are engaged in such a excessive manner, it's like his father said, man, are they gonna kill me? And you know, you see the escalation in him to some degree when you're watching this video, and it's kind of surreal because you keep thinking that, hold on, somebody's gonna de-escalate this situation, but it doesn't happen, and you literally can't believe the escalation here. And that's what we see when we talk about video is so important, because I just think the way they interact with white citizens and how they interact with black citizens is night and day. It doesn't matter who the police is, it's night and day. We keep looking for videos of them using this kind of excessive force against white citizens. You just don't see it in America. Not unarmed citizens for a simple traffic stop having this kind of brutality. You don't see it. And so that video was critical, critical. Before we get to the next question, Attorney Ramanucci wanted to say something to one of the previous questions.
Yeah. Thank you, and actually I picked up on your question, sir. Your question was, were all the officers in uniform?
And also, so I'm trying to get a sense of what it looked like from your perspective. Were they in uniform? Did you see patrol cars? You said they were unmarked vehicles. Did you see those in the video? Any sense of what that looked like?
Sure. What I can tell you is this. There is no doubt, zero doubt, that all these officers were in their Memphis Blues. Okay? They were in their patrol cars. Some were unmarked. Lights were flashing. So what that tells us is all these officers were under color of law. They were in the scope of their duties when really what we saw was an intentionality an unnecessary intentionality of violence and cruelty against somebody who was defenseless. And if we didn't say it before, this is what we saw on the video that we can tell you. He was kicked. There were multiple uses of force used against him. Multiple uses of force. That's what we can say.
Did the officer say anything? Did you hear anything that the officer said? Was there audio?
They said a lot, and they want us to let them finish the investigation before it gets out.
Have you heard at all from the federal investigators, TBI? Have they spoken with you directly?
We've only met with them.
Do you agree with the district attorney's legal reasoning for withholding the video for 1 to 2 weeks?
We all know. Well, the family made the decision that they wanted to make sure they got justice, so they said let them do what they needed to do to get everything appropriate, so there would be no technicalities why people would not be held accountable. Because what this family wants is what every citizen is entitled to, and that's full justice, not just civil accountability, but you want criminal culpability too. And so that's why the family made the decision to let them have the time to, not much time, because when you got video, it shouldn't take that long. You know, so thank you for that question. We'll take a few more. Say it again, please. Did we see what, the last thing? Well, we know he was tased, we know he was pepper sprayed, and we know he was restrained. And so when Attorney Romanucci says he was defenseless, you saw him being restrained. And for the sake of the investigation, we said we were only going to be limited in what we say. I'm sorry? No official cause of death, but we have a pathologist, Dr. Wilson, who also participated in the independent autopsy of George Floyd from the University of Michigan, conducting an independent autopsy on behalf of Tyre's family. And when she gets those results, we will try to share with you a preliminary results as soon as we can. All right.
She's going to have a hand up at the beginning. In a sweatsuit, in a hoodie. What did they do with their clothes? I know they had to have blood on them from her son. What did they do with their clothes?
We don't know the answer to that. Hopefully, like any investigation, all the evidence should have been collected. Hold on, there was a lady.
I'd like to know who trained these officers. That's right.
Who?
I'd like us to look higher up. It's really easy to say these 5 dudes did this.
Yeah.
But this is a bigger thing. So who trained them?
You know, no, I'm gonna let my co-counsel, Attorney Romanucci, talk about that because that's gonna be a big part of the civil lawsuit. Yeah.
About what you said about the video being released. Because, you know, they're supposed to already have been released. Valerie Calhoun had already questioned Mel Strickland and called him in a lie about the video. It's supposed to be being released this week. Yeah. So could you give us any concrete evidence for sure what you said that it's going to be released this week?
Yeah, well, they said 1 week, no more than 2 weeks. They promised the family that. The family said they would give them that time if they made sure they did a thorough investigation where they would be held accountable. So the family wants justice. They don't want them to come up with some technicality that they did something wrong. And so that was the family allowing them to have 1 to 2 more weeks. Now, if they don't have it in 2 weeks, brother, y'all do what y'all got to do. Hold on. We're going to have Attorney Romanucci just speak to her question. Then we're going to take one last one, and then we're going to, well, Tony talking about training and playing.
There is no doubt that most of the problem in policing in America that we see, why we even have to stand up here and talk about this, is not only because of the lack of training, but it's the continuity of training. And when bad training takes place, it's the deprogramming that's required in order to retrain and get better at what you do. So I will tell you, folks, our lawsuit will be wide in scope. It will be specific, but it's going to try and cover everything that we will uncover, peeling back these onion layers here to ensure that this family has justice.
All right, last question.
Last question.
Mr. and Mrs. Wells, I'm so sorry for your loss. After seeing the video, after seeing what happened to your son, how are you able to have strength and composure to continue this fight?
Because we have to fight for justice, and I have to stay strong for my family. As horrific as those tapes were, we still have to stay strong. We can't fold and be weak. We have to be strong. We have to fight for justice. And as they said, justice for Tyre. That's what we need. We don't need to be weak right now. We can't afford to be. We have to fight for justice.
Do you believe that you will get that justice?
Of course I do.
We will have Bishop Thomas Anderson a word of prayer. Bishop Thomas, thank you.
Let us bow our heads. And our prayer is simple, simply go in peace, but be restless in your peace until justice comes for Tyre and his family. Go in peace, but be restless in your peace.
Amen. And the family was going to play the skateboard video for those who wanted to see it. Is it playing?
Well, there you have it, the media conference hearing from the parents of Tyre Nichols today and their attorneys, and they talked about the various videos that they saw with Memphis Police Chief C.J. Davis. And the family is asking for, first of all, his father, peace until the release of the video in the next 2 weeks at least. So let's recap here what we just saw. Now, Tyre Nichols continuously asked, "What did I do?" That's what you could hear as described to us in the video. Attorney Ben Crump calls that video several things: appalling, deplorable, heinous, violent, and troublesome on every level. He says he's fighting for justice for Tyre because we don't want next week to see another video of a black person losing their life because of a traffic violation. That's what police say caused this whole thing to get started. Now, Police Chief C.J. Davis warned the family that she was not proud of what she saw. Crump says that in watching the interaction with Tyre's mother, that it was a mother-to-mother conversation and very emotional in scope. Now, Pepper attorneys say that Crump calls the officer's actions excessive, comparing it to Rodney King.
That's right, in 1991, definitely. And attorney Antonio Romanucci says Tyre was kicked and multiple uses of force was used. They say he was tased, pepper sprayed, and restrained. Now he's calling for equality in the system. The family and Crump met with Mayor Strickland and Chief Davis, and Chief Davis told the family she's not offering my response as a chief. She's offering it as a mother who's got black children. It's just touching.
It is, and this is even more so. Hello, parents. That's what Tyre's mother said his greeting was every time he walked into the door every day. That's a saying Tyre's mom says she'll never forget, but never hear from him ever again. It's how he greeted them every time he walked into the room. Now, his mom says her son loved her to death. Those are the terms she used. He even got her name tattooed on his arm. She calls him a beautiful soul and expressed how hard it is to simply feel anything at this moment. We're getting a great picture of who Tyre is by hearing his family and their accounts of who he was.
And the skateboarding, they just touched on him being such a great skateboarder. Now take a look at your screen. We have the 5 officers who have been fired in connection to the investigation. And now we're hearing from the district attorney's office. In a statement, they say, today we met with the family of Tyre Nichols, who have now seen the video. Transparency is a priority for the DA's office, and we understand the public's desire for immediate release. However, it's important that the release does not compromise the investigation. We're working with the TBI and FBI to expedite that investigation and are consulting regularly with the city of Memphis about the video's release, which we expect will occur this week or next.
And the parents emphasizing in that media conference that we just saw that they agree with the TBI and FBI. And they've got an agreement that with holding this video and making sure that every stone is turned and not left unturned, that they will get a fair investigation and all of the details, all the questions that people have will be answered. Now, the Civil Rights Museum has also released a statement. They say, we call for justice for Tyre Nichols. We call for continued immediacy in gathering the facts and the evidence in the Tyre Nichols death. We call for criminal accountability of the police officers who ended his life. It reads in part, we call for justice for Tyre Nichols. We call for continued immediacy. That's that statement, once again, right there on your screen that I just finished reading for you.
And Rudy, also along with agreeing for a thorough investigation on, giving that 2 weeks grace period for them to release the video, they also said that anybody who plans to protest, it be peaceful, because that's what Tyre Nichols would have wanted. He wanted a peaceful process in protesting for him. So
absolutely,
definitely want to respect that. And, it's a heavy day for the family and the community. The family asking what happened to humanity and kindness. And ABC24 is going to stay on top of the case to keep you informed, of course.
That's right. Tyre's mom saying she's going to get justice if it's the last breath she takes. As ABC24 gets new details, we'll be sure to update you on ABC24 News at 5 and on air.
And we'll also have updates online and in the ABC24 app. The app is free to download, and we'll send alerts when we have new information for you. But right now, we are going to give it back to regular programming. Thank you for joining us.